Hello and welcome to this episode of Akrinos Access Live. I'm Eric Matei, joined by the one and only Dr. Jen Stewart for what promises to be an amazing, insightful, inspiring conversation today as we are talking all about discovering your vision, mission, and purpose. So for starters, Dr. Stewart, welcome to Access. Super excited to have you here.
Wow, I mean, now I'm that's a lot for me to live up to, but thank you.
Well, yeah, you know, if we think back, but I don't believe there was anything under promised there, right?
Yeah.
Because truly, as we're having this conversation before going live, I know there's a lot of really great information to get out there, and I think part of that also is not only information but the inspiration behind what we're doing here with this collaboration with Akrinos and OD Perspectives. So let's go ahead and what do you say we jump right in by maybe first let's start by talking about the role of this stuff, right? Because I think now we live in a time where, look, information is at our fingertips. And I think often when one takes to a pursuit, perhaps it's easy to get ahead of oneself, going into Google and staying up all hours of the night, research and stuff like that. But really, this is all about starting at the core, right? And what's in here, because it's what's in here that's going to inform this, that's going to inform actually how you go about that planning, development, launch, or whatever you're aspiring to do. So maybe let's start by just talking about what is the role of vision, mission, and purpose for modern ODs.
So I always think about how do we make a decision, and that could be a small decision, changing. I mean, not even small, but what hours do I want to be open, or do I need to be open Saturdays? Do I have to be open in the evening? Because that's how it's always been. To large decisions, either starting, building, acquiring, expanding a practice, bringing on an expensive piece of equipment, adding an associate, all these decisions that we make daily, every minute, every hour, every day, every week, every month as a business owner. How do we actually make those decisions? And where are we getting our information from that we base those decisions on? So I've done this presentation a couple of times. I'll say, think about the last decision you made. So anyone who's on here, and I want to see comments. So we can't see who's there. So if you're here, write a little comment who you are. So because I can't see, I guess we can't see who's there. So I'm hoping there's somebody there. So if you're there, say hi. But it's really coming down to how do we make decisions and where do we get that information? Is it watching a webinar? Is it reading something in a journal? Is it learning from our colleagues? And I always say the best way is it something that I've recommended? Just kidding. But do we do it out of fear? Do we make decisions for our practice based on fear of falling behind? Yay, people are here. Fear of falling behind, or fear of, I'm not sure how to make a decision. So we just make the decision. But I like to look at the mission, vision, and values as the blueprint, the North Star of our practice. And we can come back to it time and time and time again when it is time to make a big decision about whatever it might be. Does that fit the core values and the mission and vision of when I maybe started my business? I love to ask anyone who started a business probably had to have a business plan, hopefully, when you went to the bank. So do you still have it? Do you dust it off? Do you remember what it said? And that really is what you can go back to when you make these decisions.
Well, wow, you already dropped a ton of pearls in that. And this is only the first topic. But no, I think something particularly that I wanted to pull out of there that I found fascinating was that what you said, are we behaving out of fear, or are we proactive in seizing the opportunity? And I think what you said there, I mean, and let's face it, we all no. And by the way, we have viewers out there, and our audience is not just practice owners and not just ODs, but I mean, we have professionals from across industries at all different stages of their career, perhaps pursuing all sorts of different objectives. Yeah. But that being said, that core vision, mission, purpose, those core values really is going to set the stage, particularly when the going gets tough. And in the face of that uncertainty, we can overcome that fear and seize the opportunity, right? Okay, so let's dig a little deeper and perhaps maybe start by also putting this in context, because I myself, whenever I have this conversation with folks, I still need to think, okay, which one's vision, which one's purpose? So maybe Dr. Stewart, if you would please just define those for us. What is vision, mission, and purpose?
Yeah. So a lot of times we get them confused, or people think of them interchangeably, or we're not quite sure. But first, what's also really interesting is anytime you visit a company's website, dig a little deep in the about us, or why we exist. And a lot of the big companies that are out, I mean, pretty much all of them have a mission, vision, and value statement. It might be a little harder to find, but they're out there. And these, are as small as our businesses may be, we are still businesses, and we should operate similar to larger businesses and how they kind of set their path and what they do. And one more thing before I get to definitions, I just thought of this while you were saying, this doesn't even have to apply to business, but it can apply to making personal changes in your life, maybe thinking about changing a job, or going back to school, or starting a business, kind of thinking of your own personal mission, vision, and values, which we'll get to in one second. But thinking about those in not only the business decisions you make, but the personal decisions you make. Is that authentic to me in why I'm here, what I want to be, and what's important to me? So I just thought of that as you were talking, but that's a really good point to use that
Authentic.
personally.
I love it. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
So the original question that you asked, so mission and vision kind of get lumped together, and people often think of them maybe interchangeably or aren't quite sure. I like to talk about mission as being based in the present. It's why we exist. So when we write a mission statement, it's why our business exists, what we're there to do. It's actionable. It's focused on our purpose. It's focused on our brand, and it's where we are in the moment. Where the vision, while the mission is actionable, vision is aspirational. It's where do we want to be? What are our goals? What do we aspire to be? What are we motivated to do? What do we want to do when we fulfill our purpose? And what do we want to be once we've achieved our mission? Once we've done what we said we're going to do, what's next? It's forward thinking. It's kind of thinking outside the box, and it's being kind of, what do I want to be? What do I want to do once I've done what I said I was going to do? And values are third. Values are kind of our core principle. I call them the North Star. That's what you go back to when the going gets tough. You refer back to that value statement. It's the how. It guides our decision making. It helps us decide what we want to do based on who we are, who we want to be. Now it's kind of, what are my values? What do I stand with? And what helps me kind of set my path?
Love it. Love it. I was thinking earlier this week, prior to our time together here, thinking about kind of looking at all this stuff and the application of it, right? And kind of liking it to, oh yeah, that's it. Are we building a house of cards? Are we building something of sustenance, right? Are we building the enterprise? And by the way, y'all, look, this could be for our viewers out there that are they themselves optometrists, whether you own a practice or you're looking to cold start or purchase a practice, or perhaps you're entrenched in another pursuit, professional or personal, right? Truly, are you building a house of cards, or are you building that sustainable legacy? And that's where, again, Dr. Stewart, I really love the way you defined those also, right? Very eloquently defining that vision, mission, and purpose, and how they collectively serve to establish that solid foundation to build upon and go for it. And also realizing, it's interesting you say that also, because I noticed Carissa Dunphy is joining us. Carissa, thanks so much for tuning in. Carissa mentioned that also realize that the goal may always be evolving. And I think that is such a critical piece, right? The house of cards, when the winds of change come, well, time to pick them up and go home, reshuffle the deck, right? But again, building that on a good, solid foundation of vision, mission, and purpose is going to position you to pursue the path, even as things are evolving and goals may change over time. So now let's focus this intently on modern ODs who are either aspiring and emerging practice owners, or perhaps established practice owners. So now let's talk about the role of vision, mission, and purpose across stages of the practice life cycle, right? Whether that's a cold start, a recently purchased practice, or that established practice.
So first, I think is really figuring out, do you actually have these? Dusting off your business plan, figuring out, do we actually have one, two, or all three of these? And if not, I think in any stage of the practice is either you as, maybe it's you as a cold start, thinking about why are you doing this? Why are you taking on this risk, this financial risk, this time, and really what is the reason that you want to start a practice, and start from there. But if we've been in practice, I was in my practice for 15 years, and maybe I went in with one, but certainly can't tell you if it was there. But that's a good exercise first to figure out where you are and do you actually have these? And if not, let's set it up. And this is a great time to involve your staff and your team, because they all are part of that mission, vision, and values, and they might have a great contribution as to what they think the practice looks like, or that they feel. And it might be a little bit different than yours, but it gives a good sense of kind of this community feel. And actually, after I presented this, I had somebody reached out right away and was so inspired, which was so flattering to me. And she said, we blocked out 3 hours the next week for a staff meeting to go through and sit down. Which is a hard thing to do, right? 3 hours of patient care that we are, setting aside and not generating revenue. But for her, it was so important. And she felt it was such a valuable time spent with her staff to create mission, vision, and values. So if she's out there, hi, I think her staff's tuning in. I think she's seeing patients. So, but this is recorded, so she'll listen now, again. But that is it shows your staff that you really believe in this, and it's not a fly-by-night thought that you have to really block that time out. So it might not be 3 hours that you have, but it might be an hour. But I think that if you are an established practice, now's the time. I mean, it's hard to work on the business when we're in the business. So setting that time to do this will pay dividends, and I think it gives your staff something to come back to when, at any life cycle of the practice, there's going to be times where the staff isn't sure how to act. But if they can go back to what the vision of and mission and values are, that will help them make decisions and kind of be a little bit more independent. But thinking about the life cycle of a practice, I mean, a cold start's an easy one. I think it's really, why are you doing this? What do you want to do? Or if, what do you want the practice to do for you? Not only what do you want to do in your practice, but what value does that practice bring to you? How does it serve you professionally, personally, and financially? How do you craft this vision, pun intended, to have this blueprint of a practice, and why are you doing this? So I think for a cold start, it's easy, but established practices, I think it really comes down to making decisions, especially now. Like a big one I think about that comes up is people wanting to be more independent and less dependent on managed care. And it can be really easy to say, I can't drop any because I'll go broke, or my patients won't like it, or I want to drop them all tomorrow and be completely independent. But when you're kind of in between and you're not sure what to do, you can come back to that again. What's the vision of my practice? What is the mission? What are we serving? And why are we here? Is that out of whack a little bit? Did we talk about this amazing patient experience? We want to provide this boutique patient experience, but because of vision care plans, I'm forced to see 4 patients an hour. And I'm kind of out of alignment. So that can help you come back to say, okay, no, I went into this for a reason. Now I have the good information and the good way to make decisions that aren't emotional. So maybe I drop one plan and see how that goes. But I made an informed decision based on facts and not emotion in the moment. So I think, and Carissa just brought up, what about when you take over a practice and purchase and the values change instantly? That can be, and that might not be that you change it instantly. That might be a time where you bring the staff in and you say, this is going to be a change, but I'm also purchasing a practice for a reason. I didn't cold start for a reason. I saw something in this practice that made me want to buy it. So thinking of that and using those values and using the reason that you wanted to buy that practice to integrate into that mission and maybe change it slowly over time without coming in and just cleaning house. But that I think helps with that decision of what the culture is going to be, because why did you buy that practice? Is it because of a high revenue? Well, why do they have a high revenue? Is it the patient experience? Well, that helps you guide now your mission, values, and vision, because there's, this amazing per patient net, or maybe it's a hugely medical patient base that you can't wait to get in there and help. Well, what's the mission? What do they provide their patients? Where are you looking to take that? And what values will you hold fast to as you make decisions about changing and adding equipment and whatever it might be? So thank you, Chris.
Great question there, Chris. And Dr. Stewart, I love how you walked us through that, right? Looking at the role of vision, mission, and purpose for the cold start, for the established practice, and then for that newly purchased practice. And I think to your point, for the cold start, perhaps it's a bit simpler process. Now, I'm not saying it's an easy process, but it's simple in that you're starting with a true blank canvas, right? Whereas with that established practice and practice under new ownership, it ain't a blank canvas. There's a lot of stuff already on that canvas, right? And I think as you were mentioning it, something I really like that you were bringing up there is you were linking these core foundational elements. Again, vision, mission, and purpose. Those core values, right? You were linking it to strategy and function and execution, right? And that's something that we always discuss, right? When you're looking to roll out that strategy. And look, Dr. Stewart, I think you could probably attest to this, thinking back to when you were in practice ownership, right? And that is, it's all about having a stakeholder-centric strategy. And that stakeholder centricity, it is imperative that all three stakeholders are adequately served. And who are those stakeholders? It's going to be patients. It's going to be your people, your team. It's going to be the practice.
Right.
Well, right? And we don't want to make any decisions that marginalizes any of those stakeholders or doesn't keep their best interest at the forefront. And you can, and by the way, practice owners, or if you don't own a practice, if you're on the path to practice ownership, think about the organization maybe that you work in right now, and think about those things that are implemented and have amazing results. And then those other things that we're kind of struggling to implement and we can't quite roll out, right? And that's where I would invite you to look back and see how are each of the three stakeholders being served, right? So
I think back to when, even in my practice, there were times where we had kind of a mismatch in culture. I don't know if anyone wants to comment if you've had that. Maybe it's just me, where if you had kind of a time where you're like, whoa, what just happened to everybody in my office? Like, oh my gosh. So, but then you think back and you're like, did something, were we hiring out of fear? Were we replacing a lost employee with a warm body and a pulse that didn't really fit the culture that we were creating? To go back to, if our core value is to put the patient's experience above all else, and we hire somebody that we're all like, I don't know, like they're fine. And, but why didn't it work out? Or why did your team kind of fall apart? Well, we go back to that core value and why we're in business. That person didn't fit because you knew it deep down, but we make decisions based on fear, and we do things emotionally, which we're all human. But going back and thinking, sometimes kind of reverse thinking and thinking about times in your practice that things weren't going well, or there were a lot of mistakes being made, or you brought in a piece of equipment that you were like, oh gosh, I got talked into it at Vision Expo. What a bad idea. Now it's like a boat anchor. But all of those decisions, if you go back and honestly be honest with yourself, you don't have to tell me, you don't have to tell anybody, but you can think maybe as you finish this and have lunch, when I brought that piece of equipment in because I just had to have it because I saw it at Vision Expo and it didn't work. Was it the piece of equipment's fault? Was it the rep's fault? Was it my fault, or did it just not fit all of the things I've already created and it just was a mismatch? And that's okay. We have to learn from those. But I encourage you to think about that when you think back to things maybe that didn't click in your practice. People, I mean, Carissa and I have talked about frame lines, right? Like what works in one, even if you have multiple offices, what works in one of your offices might not work in another location, even in your own business. But if you try and force a round peg into a square hole, it just doesn't work. But going back, does it fit that vision of what you've created? And probably the answer is no. It's easier to hindsight, of course, but that can
Yeah,
help us.
absolutely.
I mean, it's so easy to think back and go, well, yeah, like I shouldn't have done that. But what do we learn from that? And then how do we make decisions going forward? Do we keep doing the same thing over and over again? Or do we really go back to that, the reason that we're in business, the reason we've created this team? Why do I have these people? Why do I have these products? Why am I in this location? Who is the patient I'm looking to attract? And am I looking, when we start a business, we have an ideal patient in mind, right? Like we all go into it, we can't be everything to everybody. So we all have an ideal patient we want to serve. So thinking of that patient when you make those decisions will help you make better decisions and go back to, that patient, does this piece of equipment really serve them? Probably not. Save your money.
Love it. Love it. I mean, it really is. I really dig how you connected all those dots there, Dr. Stewart. Really, right? Because sometimes I think when talking about vision, mission, and purpose,
Yeah.
some folks are like, I ain't got time for that hippie stuff.
Yeah.
I'm just
I
going
know
to go
it's
start.
woo,
Let's go to the
magic.
bank. Let's get some money. Yeah, right. But it really is. But it's this application when you realize that, again, that good solid foundation. Are we building a sustainable legacy in our business, in our pursuit, or are we building a mere house of cards? Right. So hey, if you're just tuning in, we're hanging out here, Access Live with Dr. Jen Stewart, talking about discovering your vision, mission, and purpose. And I think now let's kind of shift the conversation now to, all right, like, how do we do it, right? So like, how can modern ODs discover these core values? Where do you say, maybe the first question is like, where do you even start in this stuff?
I would say like start by where you want to be. And there's so much talk about retirement and selling our practices and building a practice that eventually somebody will pay us an astronomical amount of money for. But what does that look like? And if you could start all over again, if you had the opportunity to kind of clean slate and start all over again, would the practice that you're in currently look like the practice that you would want to be in? Hopefully the answer is yes. For all of us, it's probably not perfect. We kind of get places sometimes and wonder, how did I end up here? How did I maybe start off with a very small boutique practice, and that's how I cold started. And I blink, and now I've got this monster 4-doctor, 20 staff, every insurance plan possible machine that I look at some days and go, oh my gosh, like this is not what I want. How did I get here? So thinking first about, are you where you want to be, not professionally, not financially, but kind of personally? Am I happy going to work every day? Which that's a tough one, but do I generally like what I'm doing? And if not, if I could do it all over again, what would I do different? And start today. Start thinking about, well, if it's not the way I want it to be, and I feel like I've lost control, which we all do. I mean, the last 3 years have been out of control for all of us. And sometimes we just feel like we're just surviving. But if it's not what you want it to be, what do you want it to look like? And then start by making that list. That becomes your mission statement. And then what do I want to look like in the future? There's your vision statement. What do I want to be? Maybe I'm 10 years out, or I'm 15 years out, or I'm 5 years out of school, or I'm 40 years out, and I love optometry still, and I don't want to retire, but I want it to look a little different. So what do you want it to be? And then what won't you compromise on? What is something, I don't want to see 10 patients an hour to make extra money. I want to see 1 patient an hour to have the experience. So what do you need to get there? And I always like to share, if you don't think that our competitors are doing this, it is such a missed opportunity for us. We don't want to be like some of them, but we should take a page out of their book and learn from them. So in the comments, I'm going to read a statement, and I want to see if anyone can guess who this is. We believe that buying glasses should be easy and fun. It should leave you happy and good looking with money in your pocket. We also believe that everyone has the right to see. Who said that? I'll tell you, it's not Dr. Stewart's practice. Anyone know? Anyone know whose statement that is? Any guesses?
Anyone looking for comments
Anyone?
here? Looking for comments? By the way, I don't know. Shot in the dark. Well, I don't know. Go ahead, spoil it.
It's Warby Parker. Warby Parker. They want glasses.
I thought so.
Yes, they want it to be fun. They want you to be happy. They want you to feel good and look good. So they get it. And then also, here's another one. We believe in creating a better world where eye health, not kickbacks to eye doctors, determines a person's options, and technology enables everyone to take control of their own vision care. Who said that? Another one of our, I don't know.
Disruptors. A disruptor.
Yes. So they want eye health in the forefront, not kickbacks to eye doctors and technology to take care of their own vision care. That's 1-800-CONTACTS. So our competitors are out there. They are doing this. They have thought through what their company is, where they want to be, and what their values are. So we should take a page out of their book and make sure that we define it too.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. By the way, those are really good. You have me guessing. Really I was thinking like, wow, those are really catchy.
They're so good. And they're well done. And they are true to, all things aside, but they are true to what their companies are, good or bad. How we feel about that doesn't matter. But do they do what they say? 100%. They do exactly what they say they do. But, getting back to, thinking about the decisions or how we feel, it's been a rough couple of years for everybody. I mean, I was at a dinner last night where we were talking about staffing, and Kayla Ashley, who's on here, hi Kayla, and I recorded earlier this week about staffing. And so there's a lot that makes us stressed and a lot that makes us unhappy, but really thinking about why did we choose this amazing field? Why did we start this business? Why did we buy this business? Did you get so far from that you're overwhelmed and unsure how to make decisions? Let's take steps to get you closer to that vision, that reason that you created a business, and be able to make smart, informed decisions that are based in fact and not emotion.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know you mentioned Kayla Ashley's name, Kayla, awesome industry collaborator. And I know through some explorations with them and what they're doing with Spexy, I think some of the same stuff, helping doctors, you reconnect with that vision, mission, purpose, and then how do you then implement it and roll it out? Well, was that a teaser to the next question? As a matter of fact, it was. And a plug for an awesome industry partner collaborator in Kayla Ashley and her team over at Spexy. So, okay, so we got our vision, mission, and purpose. We understand what it is, regardless if we're a cold start, a newly purchased practice, or an established practice, right? You walked us through kind of where to start in that discovery of one's vision, mission, and purpose. So now let's talk about aligning it, right? Like, so how do we take this process of self-discovery, perhaps individually, or if you're an established practice, perhaps with your team, right? Now let's talk about aligning it with the day-to-day. And share some best practices, also perhaps some hurdles to implementation, some watch-outs.
Oh, I have no idea to do that. No, I'm kidding. Wouldn't that be horrible? You're on your own.
I was going to say, like, I thought we were on the same page with this.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of us as optometrists, we can be really isolated and live on our island of our exam room and kind of feel, even if we're in group practices, we can feel very isolated. And even last night, I was at a dinner with a couple practices. It was an eye doc study group meeting, and we were talking about virtual assistants, which Kayla and I have been on a tear talking about. I think it's a fascinating part of optometry. I won't even get into it now, but none of the doctors at this group had even heard of virtual assistants or heard about it in a practice. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, like, how is that possible? But we go into our office, we see our patients, we manage our staff, we go home, and we don't have time or feel connected often to the greater community. But the great thing is we don't have to do it alone, and you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to be a practice management guru or a business MBA or somebody who knows everything to implement any of these changes. And I think that can be our hesitation is, oh gosh, like I don't have the time, I don't have the resources, I can barely staff my practice. Now you wanted me to create, my ideal practice. But there are people out there who have gone into business to support this. And that is all they do is create solutions to allow us to do this and not feel we have to do it ourselves. We talked about Spexy with their staff training, and it's unbelievable. And we often are so terrified to do things with our staff to train them because we don't have the time. But again, just thinking a little bit or being connected and looking at resources, the Cold Start Corner, all the things that you provide are these resources that are available, or there's groups out there or webinars or just so many things that we can learn that we don't have to do it ourselves. We can talk to other people. There are so many people out there just willing to help us, but we first have to know what we need before we can even look for that solution. So I think the first step is really figuring out, like, kind of cleaning your own house out and saying, okay, let's be honest and be real. What's important to me? What do I honestly want to fix, or what do I want to do? And then go outside and look for those solutions and maybe find those partners and those people to align with to help us not feel that we have to go at it alone and feel overwhelmed and give up, but to say, okay, this is what I want to achieve. Who out there can help me do that and who has done it before and has the experience? It might be for somebody who is so inspired to do a cold start. They maybe are in a practice that they don't like, or they're a new graduate who has always wanted to own a business, but they're paralyzed by thinking of, oh my gosh, I don't even know how to go to a bank or do anything. So they have somebody like you who can help them write a business plan. You don't have to know everything in optometry to be successful. You just have to know the right people. So if you want to open a practice, you can do it. You don't have to do everything yourself, and you can find consultants or mentors or business coaches or other people out there who can help support you and make you feel like you're not alone and help you get there quicker. So
absolutely. As we're talking about that, like kind of the best practices to really align that vision, mission, purpose with your day to day. You mentioned it comes within, right? It's really a matter of kind of making the space to go within in this process of discovery, right? Discovering that vision, mission, and purpose, and letting that inform the path forward. And Dr. Stewart, I'll also mention, as we were discussing prior to going live as well, it's not just optometrists, right? Everyone, no matter who you are, no matter where you live, no matter what you're up to, and whether it's, growing a practice, whether it's supporting and growing a nonprofit, taking the next step, perhaps going for that promotion within your organization, or maybe it's nothing even professional altogether. Maybe it's just something in your personal life or your community, right? Making the space for that, discovering that vision, mission, and purpose, and letting that inform how you proceed. So, what a fascinating conversation that we've been having here. For those of you just joining us, hanging out with Dr. Jennifer Stewart here on Access, we're talking about discovering your vision, mission, and purpose. I will say, if you're just joining us, well, you're going to have to catch the reboot because we're kind of getting here near the end. But before we go, Dr. Stewart, please share a bit about your background, and particularly the work that you're up to now with your business, OD Perspectives. So please share a little bit about your story and what you're doing with OD Perspectives.
So I actually had a very successful group practice that I was an owner at for 15 years, which I almost a year, sold last June to, again, I revisited my own mission, vision, and values and thought, is the place that I'm at where I want to be in this moment? I have 2 young boys who are super active. Anyone who's a parent of young children or children at all knows how busy they are. And at the moment, it wasn't serving me personally to miss out on a lot of things that they were doing. So I made the huge life decision to sell my practice and leave patient care and kind of take a leap into consulting, speaking, writing, teaching, inspiring, traveling, and being a mom and being available for my kids. But every decision I make is now based on the importance of why I did this. And I had 2 opportunities to travel this week, and I almost said yes. And then I had to think, nope, I've got a field trip, a concert, and a couple events for my kids. So I had to come back to my own values of what's most important to me right now and turn those down. So even personally, I use those exercises to make decisions when lots of people want to ask to do cool things and you can't do everything. But OD Perspectives is my consulting and advisory company. You can find me, I'm the professional editor of Independent Strong, which is a Jobson publication focused on independence. So if you're not a subscriber, I hope now you will be. We talk a lot about really cool things in the industry. Carissa and Kayla and Eric have all shared their wisdom on there for our independent community, looking to become even more independent, but make sure that you're supported on your journey. You can find me pretty much anywhere. I feel like depending on the week, I'm everywhere. I tend to pop up on lots of podcasts and webinars, and you never know where I'll be, but I'm enjoying it. And it was a very, a big decision to make. We don't go into optometry school expecting at 41 that we will be, I'm putting in quotes, retired, and to take a time out from patient care. But I followed my true North Star, which was my family, and feeling that I had other things that were pulling me to do, and that I thought there was a role for me to hopefully inspire others to do cool things. And I wanted to pursue it full time, and I'm having a blast. So thank you.
Yeah. And I've got to say that pursuit, and by the way, y'all, I've just popped www.odperspectives.com is how you can connect with Dr. Stewart. Also, I know you're very active on LinkedIn.
Yes.
And by the way, for all of our viewers out there, if you are not yet in LinkedIn, you got to get into LinkedIn. That's where the business conversations are going down, right? Facebook, Instagram, it's great. It's a lot of fun. Pictures of the fam, pictures on the bike, pictures at a concert, whatever, right? But LinkedIn truly is where all the business conversation goes down. And I would invite even those of you that are perhaps looking to cold start, looking to purchase a practice, think of yourself as a business owner, because that's what you're on the path of doing. And again, LinkedIn is where the latest in modern business solutions applicable to all elements of optometry, that's where it's all going down. And I did want to make mention also, Dr. Stewart and I have come to collaborating quite a bit, and I know a ton of doctors that have come to working with Dr. Stewart and what she's doing with OD Perspectives, right? That peer-to-peer coaching and mentorship, and it's a unique perspective, no pun intended, that Dr. Stewart brings, because vision, mission, and purpose is at the core of everything that she does, and that she really helps and supports doctors in creating and fostering as they are taking these steps in their career. So, wow, what an amazing conversation, Dr. Stewart. I really feel like we could probably go. We've gone 38 minutes. I feel like we could go another all afternoon. Hey, so for all of our viewers out there, on behalf of our team here at Akrinos, Eric Matei, joined by the one and only Dr. Stewart. Dr. Stewart, again, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. This was so fun. Like, I'm super inspired now. Now I'm like, I don't know what I'm gonna do the rest of it. What do you guys, is anyone inspired? Write in the comments. Anyone inspired to do anything like super excited? What are you gonna do, Eric?
This guy. Well, I think I shared with you a little bit prior to us going live that
you got
we've
some
actually
inspiration behind this.
we got some pretty cool things going on. But yeah, absolutely amazing time here. Again, for our viewers worldwide, because we do get some international viewers these days on Access. But thank you all so much for joining us here on Akrinos Access. We sat down with Dr. Jennifer Stewart talking about discovering your vision, mission, and purpose. If you want to get in touch with Dr. Stewart, catch up with her at odperspectives.com. And as you're looking to continue to look for the best in modern practice management resources and inspiration, check out akrinos.com. Follow us across the socials. And Dr. Stewart, I think the only thing we have left to say is just good luck to everybody, right? Good luck.
I hear already one person is going to look at their mission statement this afternoon and consider what their vision is. So we've inspired one
Love
of
it.
you to kind of take control of your business, decide what your authentic business looks like, and see if they match up, and if not, what are you going to do to solve that? So I'm thank you for saying that. That inspired
Thank you
me to
so
think
much.
of something too.
I know, huh? We're all inspired. It's like one big inspirational drum circle.
I know.
Groovy. All right, Dr. Stewart, have an awesome week.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.
Bye, y'all.